Ever wonder how you'll be remembered when the noise fades away? When the room is quiet and it's just her alone with her thoughts? What comes to mind? Is it the man who was always chasing validation, or the one who carried himself with strength, clarity, and unshakable peace? In today's video, we're going to dive deep into how you can become the kind of man she'll remember in those silent moments. Not because of what you said, but because of the powerful presence you exuded when everything else was still. Let's explore how to leave a lasting impact long after the noise has died down. The stillness that speaks, number 1. The stillness that speaks. In a world addicted to noise, your calm becomes rare. You don't need to be the loudest. You don't need to dominate the room. You just need to be anchored, present, grounded. She'll remember that. Not because you said the most, but because your stillness made her feel something different. Like a true Stoic, you don't force connection. You command presence. When the room quiets down and the crowd fades, what lingers in her mind isn't the man who demanded attention. It's the man who didn't need to. The one whose peace could be felt across the room. The one who looked at chaos and didn't flinch. That kind of presence doesn't need volume. It needs depth. Maybe it was the way you listened instead of interrupting, or the way your eyes stayed steady while others shifted with insecurity. It's those little things that speak louder than empty words. And in a woman's memory, those moments echo long after everyone else is forgotten. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do, you didn't come to impress. You came to be, and in that being you left a mark. You became the calm in her storm, the silence in her noise, the one she plays not because of what you did, but because of what you didn't do." So when she finds herself alone with her thoughts, when the music stops and the world gets quiet, that's when your stillness speaks loudest. That's when she remembers. Not the man who chased or bragged or tried to prove, but the man who didn't need to be that man. And if this speaks to something inside, you, share your thoughts below. What does stillness mean to you? When was the last time your silence spoke louder than your words? I'd love to hear it. Number 2, your energy wasn't. Your energy wasn't desperate. It was distinct desperate. It was distinct. You never overextended. You didn't seek validation. Your energy wasn't begging for attention. It invited curiosity. She'll remember how you never needed her yet valued her. That balance, that's unforgettable. Because when a man doesn't move from desperation, but from grounded self-respect, everything changes. You weren't trying to prove yourself. You weren't chasing her affection or adjusting your identity to be more appealing. You were simply present, calm, composed, intentional. That presence, that unshakable calm, it spoke louder than anything you could have said. Imagine her walking into a room full of voices, laughter, people eager to be noticed. And there you were, not loud, not needy, just there. Not aloof, but calm. Not distant, but centered. You didn't try to fill the space with words. You filled it with energy. And not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that commands it without asking. That's what made you different. That's what made you magnetic. While others projected insecurity in the form of overcompensation, you practiced discipline. That's where Stoicism quietly enters. Like Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." You didn't need to react to the world around you. You didn't need to compete. You simply stayed true to your values. You weren't moved by flattery nor shaken by indifference. And in that self-governed stillness, you created something she couldn't forget. An emotional imprint that didn't beg for space but made space sacred. A Stoic man doesn't seek to dominate others. He seeks to master himself. And that's what you did. You didn't make her feel pressured or manipulated. You made her feel safe. Safe in your silence, safe in your energy, and most of all, safe to be herself around you. She'll remember you in quiet moments, not because of something you said, but because of how she felt in your presence. She'll remember the eye contact that didn't waver, the way you listened without trying to fix, the way your energy never pushed but always welcomed. When the room is silent, when the chaos fades, she won't remember who talked the most or who tried the hardest. She'll remember the man who didn't need the room to remember him because his presence said everything. You didn't make noise, you made impact, and impact, unlike noise, stays long after the moment is gone. So, don't chase attention. Don't fight to be heard. Just be grounded, clear, calm. That's the kind of man she remembers when the room is quiet. And if that message resonates with you, if you've ever felt the power of simply being instead of constantly doing, then let's keep this energy alive. Before we move on, take a moment to support the channel. Hit that like button if you're the kind of man who values presence over performance. Drop a comment below and tell me, what do you think makes a man unforgettable when everything goes quiet? Or if you just want to show you're tuned in, type presence over performance. That simple act lets me know you're walking this path too, steady, intentional, and rooted. Now, let's go deeper. You saw her clearly, but didn't lose yourself. Number 3. You saw her clearly, but didn't lose yourself. You made her feel seen, but never at the cost of your own identity. That's rare these days. Most men either go cold and distant to protect themselves, or they go Allen, abandoning who they are just to stay close to a woman's warmth. But you found the middle ground. You listened without losing your voice. You supported without becoming her shadow. You showed her she mattered, but not more than your own integrity. There's a quiet strength in that. She could feel it. How you were there, present, available, but not dependent. You weren't trying to be everything she ever wanted. You were being everything you were. And that's what hit different, because when a man doesn't shrink to fit someone's expectations, when he holds the line of who he is, even in love, that's when he becomes unforgettable. That's where Stoicism breathes life into modern masculinity. It reminds us that love is not about losing ourselves in someone else. It's about expanding who we are while staying rooted in our values. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do." You lived that. You didn't bend to keep her. You stayed aligned with the man you set out to be. Let me give you an example. Maybe she was used to men who overcompensated, guys who texted too much, agreed with everything she said, tried to become her ideal. But with you, she felt something unfamiliar. Steadiness. You didn't flood her with words to prove you cared. You didn't change your opinions just to avoid conflict. You had backbone. And still, you made her feel deeply understood. That contrast, it leaves an imprint, especially when she's alone thinking about the men who came and went, and Theon who stayed true to himself. She might not have fully grasped it at the time, but when the room gets quiet, when she's no longer distracted by attention or noise, your presence will rise back to the surface. Why? Because it was built on truth. Because you never needed her to complete you. You were whole when she met you. And that wholeness gave her a rare kind of safety. The kind that doesn't beg, doesn't cling, doesn't chase, but stays in the mind, long after the moment has passed. So, I'll leave you with this. In your next relationship or the next time you care for someone, will you keep your foundation strong? Will you see her truly without disappearing in the process? Let that be your reflection. And if this resonated with you, if you've ever loved someone without letting go of yourself, share it below. I'd love to hear how you stayed grounded in your truth. Number 4, you didn't react. You reflected. You didn't react. You reflected when conflict came. You didn't explode. You didn't panic. You paused. You chose your response. That's rare and powerful. In a world where people rush to speak, defend, and prove themselves, your silence was unnerving in the best way. You didn't just stay quiet. You stayed composed. You showed her what real emotional maturity looks like, the kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard, and that's what she'll remember. not just in the moment, but long after. Maybe there was a time when things got heated. She accused you of something or she pulled away to get a reaction. She expected fireworks, expected you to lose your cool like others before you. But instead, you met her chaos with clarity. You didn't get defensive. You didn't start chasing. You didn't need to because you knew who you were. And that truth didn't need to be proven in the heat of the moment. That right there, that's Stoicism, alive and breathing. It's not about being passive. It's about being powerful without being loud. A Stoic man doesn't let external events dictate his inner world. He pauses, he reflects. He acts with intention, not impulse. Epictetus said it well. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And you lived that. Your restraint wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Your calm presence told her everything she needed to know about the kind of man you are. Someone who doesn't crumble under pressure. Someone who chooses peace over pride. And here's the part most men miss. Your lack of reaction didn't push her away. It drew her in. Because emotional control signals strength. It signals self-rust. When a man can hold space for tension without becoming reactive, it creates a sense of safety and mystery. She started to wonder what's going on in his mind. Why isn't he falling apart like the others? That curiosity, that respect, it grows in silence. Even now when she's alone, maybe thinking back on how things ended or how you handled that last difficult conversation, it lingers. The way you didn't stoop to drama, the way you didn't chase closure with desperate words, the way you stood tall, not by overpowering her, but by staying rooted in your center. That kind of discipline makes a woman feel something she doesn't forget easily. And that's why you're Thaman she remembers when the room is quiet. Not because you said the perfect words, but because your silence said everything. You didn't react. You reflected. And in doing so, you became the contrast to all the noise she's used to. The man who didn't need to prove himself, because his calm already did. You made her feel safe without owning her. Number 5, you made her feel safe without owning her. You didn't try to control her. You didn't need to. Instead, you gave her the one thing most men can't seem to offer without strings attached: emotional safety. Not the kind that cages, but the kind that liberates. And that is something a woman never forgets. She could breathe around you. She didn't have to filter her words or shrink herself just to make you feel secure. You weren't looking to mold her, fix her, or possess her. You were simply present fully, calmly, and without an agenda. That kind of masculine energy is rare. It doesn't shout, doesn't smother, and doesn't need to be constantly validated. It's anchored, and that anchor, that's what made her feel safe enough to be herself. You see, most men confuse control with connection. They try to monitor, manage, even manipulate to keep a woman close, but not you. You understood what the Stoics taught long ago, that we cannot own another soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't control external events. You control your response." You applied that wisdom to love. Instead of trying to lock her down, you let her be free. Free to choose you, not feel obligated to stay. And in that freedom, you became even more valuable. Because she saw that your strength didn't come from dominance. It came from discipline. You didn't fall apart when she pulled away to think. You didn't beg when she needed space. You didn't guilt-trip her when she had doubts. You just stayed true to who you were. Calm, grounded, whole. Think of Amamant when she was emotionally overwhelmed. Maybe she lashed out. Maybe she grew distant. Most men would have tried to fix it immediately to pull her back into closeness out of their own discomfort. But you didn't react. You didn't push. You stood still. Let her feel. Let her process. And in doing so, she began to trust you even more. Not because you did something loud or grand, but because your silence said, "I'm not afraid of your feelings. You're safe here." And that's what stays with her. Even if she's no longer in your life, even if she's met someone else, when the noise fades and the room grows quiet, her memory drifts back. Not to the man who tried to own her, but to them and who made her feel safe while letting her remain free. You were the calm in her storm. You were the man who didn't try to make her stay but created a space where she wanted to. That's Stoic love, strong, steady, and rooted in freedom. And that's the kind of love a woman remembers. Not when things are chaotic, but when it's silent, when she's alone, when she's wondering what safety really felt like, and in that quiet space, it's your name that echoes. And now I want you to take a moment, pause, and really reflect. In a world full of noise and control, how rare is it to simply feel safe in someone's presence without pressure? If you've ever been that calm anchor in someone's storm, or if you're striving to become that man, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's open up a real conversation below. Or if you just want to keep it simple, type true strength is silent. That one sentence says everything. Now let's explore what it means when your presence continues to speak long after you've left the room. Number 6, you weren't perfect. You weren't perfect. You were present, we're present. Perfection fades, but presence, that sticks. She'll remember that you showed up not as a flawless fantasy, but as Aemon who lived his truth. You didn't try to be everything. You didn't try to impress her with curated charm or clever words. You were simply there fully, honestly, and without the mask. And in today's world where so many people hide behind distractions and image, that kind of grounded presence is rare. That kind of man is unforgettable. She may not recall every conversation you had or every detail of the moments you shared, but she will remember how she felt around you. She'll remember the calm in your eyes when everything else felt chaotic. She'll remember the way your silence didn't feel like distance. It felt like depth. The way you listened without rushing to fix things. The way you didn't always have the perfect answers, but you brought your full attention and that was enough. This is what Stoicism quietly teaches us. Not to be perfect, but to be steady, to be anchored in principle, not swept away by impulse. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You weren't chasing the idea of the ideal man. You were embodying the kind of man who values truth over ego, presence over performance, and principle over praise. You weren't flawless, but you were consistent. And in her eyes, that consistency became comfort. That steadiness became safety. Even if she never says it aloud, when the room is quiet, when she's alone with her thoughts, your presence will return to her. Not because you forced it, but because you didn't. Because you were real in a world full of pretend. Because you were emotionally available without being emotionally chaotic. Because your energy never asked to be ripped. It simply asked to be met with honesty. So no, you weren't perfect, but you were real. And when all the temporary thrills fade, when the excitement of the world dulls, it's not the perfect man she'll crave. It's the present one. Aemon who didn't vanish when things got hard. The man who showed up fully even when it wasn't easy. And that's the man she remembers when the room is quiet. You respected her emotions, but you mastered yours. Number 7. You respected her emotions, but you mastered yours. She cried, she raged, she tested, but you remained unshaken. Not cold, not distant, just composed. You didn't raise your voice to match hers. You didn't crumble under the pressure of her tears or get defensive when her words cut deep. You understood something most men miss. Her storm wasn't about destroying you. It was a cry to feel safe, to be met with strength that doesn't intimidate, but steadies. And you gave her that, not by controlling her, but by controlling yourself. That's the quiet power of Stoicism. It's not about being emotionless. It's about understanding what's yours to carry and what's not. You didn't absorb her chaos. You didn't make her pain about you. You stood firm in your center, knowing that real. Masculinity isn't proven in comfort but revealed in conflict. You let her feel. You let her express. And all the while, you stayed rooted in your values. Remember what Marcus Aurelius taught. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you'll find strength. That's what you showed her. While she searched for ground beneath her, you were the ground. You didn't run. You didn't lecture. You held space. And in that space, she felt something she may never have known before. Safety that didn't suffocate, and leadership that didn't dominate. Even if she couldn't name it at the time, she felt it. And in a future moment, maybe after the excitement of someone else fades, maybe after her emotions spin out with someone who reacts instead of reflects, your presence will echo. The contrast will be undeniable. Because men who can hold their own emotional frame without collapsing into hers, they don't just stand out, they stay. So when the room is quiet, when she's alone with her regrets, with their realization that emotional outbursts don't shake every man, she'll think of you not because you were perfect, but because you were anchored. And that kind of presence, it doesn't need words to be remembered. Number 8, you walked away without. You walked away without slamming the door. You didn't curse her out. You didn't beg for another chance. You didn't write long paragraphs trying to explain yourself or extract some final word from her. You just let go peacefully, calmly, like a man who knows that not everything needs to end with noise. And that quiet exit, it echoed. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was rare. Most men, when they're hurt, explode. They try to force closure. They send one last emotional message, hoping to stir something. But you didn't fall into that trap. You didn't make her feel cornered. You left with self-respect. Not because you were trying to be mysterious, but because you were grounded. Stoicism teaches us that what's outside our control should never control us. And her choice to let go of you, that was hers to make. But how you responded, that was where your power lived. You chose not to chase what wasn't choosing you. You didn't dramatize the ending. You didn't make her the villain. You simply accepted what was. And that's exactly what makes a Stoic man unforgettable. He doesn't burn bridges. He just knows when to stop crossing them. You didn't walk away in anger. You walked away in acceptance. That subtle difference. She'll feel it. Over time, she'll realize you weren't trying to win the breakup. You were choosing your peace over prolonged pain. And it's in the quiet moments, the ones no one sees, where your presence will return to her. Late at night, when she replays it all in her head, she'll remember how you didn't slam the door, how you didn't need the last word, how you respected yourself enough to exit without bitterness. That kind of man, he's not easily replaced. There's a certain weight to stillness, to restraint. And in a world obsessed with being heard, your silence became the loudest thing she remembers. Not because it was manipulative, but because it was controlled, intentional, and filled with meaning. When the room is quiet, when the world around her slows down and there's no more noise to distract her, she'll think of you. The man who left like a storm that never needed thunder, only calm. And in that space of silence, she'll begin to wonder. Not just about what she lost, but about who you really were. Because men who can walk away without slamming the door aren't just forgotten. They become the story she quietly retells in her mind again and again. You elevated her, but you were already whole. Number 9, you elevated her, but you were already whole. She'll remember how being around you made her want to rise, not because you pushed her, but because your energy naturally pulled her upward. You didn't force growth. You didn't make speeches about self-improvement or demand that she change. You simply were disciplined, steady, quietly evolving. And that alone was more powerful than any lecture. She watched how you handled your mornings, how you moved through chaos without complaint, how you made decisions without seeking validation. She saw the way you respected yourself and in that learned how to respect herself more. But here's what made it unforgettable. You didn't come to her as a project or a man hoping she'd fix him. You weren't hoping love would complete you or fill some emotional gap. You were already whole, already grounded, already living with a sense of purpose that didn't rise or fall based on her moods, her attention, or her approval. And that right there, that's what set you apart. You weren't trying to make her your everything. You already had everything you needed within. She could feel that. The way your presence didn't cling, the way your silence didn't punish, the way your calm wasn't an act. It was earned. It was the kind of peace a man only finds after facing his own darkness and choosing not to let it own him. Stoicism teaches that we don't control others. We control our response. And you lived that. You didn't shape her with force. You shaped her with example. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." That's who you became, the quiet standard. The one who didn't need to say much because your life already spoke. And when the world around her quiets, when the buzz fades and she's left alone with her thoughts, it's not the loud, performative men she remembers. It's you, the man who never asked her to become more, yet made her want to. Thaman, who needed nothing yet gave presence. The man who could walk alone but made walking with him feel like a privilege. She may meet louder men, flashier ones, even charming ones. But few will carry the self-contained gravity you had because you weren't trying to impress. You were just living aligned. That's not just attractive, that's unforgettable, especially when the room is quiet. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever inspired someone without even trying, just by being disciplined, centered, and quietly growing? That's a rare kind of power. And if this message resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of this did you connect with the most? Drop a comment below or simply type, "Real presence doesn't need noise." If you're finding value here, don't forget to like the video. It helps more men discover the strength of living aligned. Let's keep going. Number 10, your legacy was emotional. Your legacy was emotional discipline. In the end, what truly lingers isn't your charm. It's your discipline, your stillness, your self-respect, your refusal to break under pressure. She might remember your smile, your voice, or even how your hands felt on hers. But what truly stays? It's the way you remained composed when others would have folded. You didn't flinch when tested. You didn't chase when pushed away. You stood firm, not in arrogance, but in quiet strength. That's the kind of presence that echoes long after you're gone. She may have experienced other men who brought fireworks and chaos, but with you, there was stillness. There was clarity. You didn't react to her mood swings or get pulled into every emotional wave. You responded deliberately, calmly, from a place of inner control. That kind of emotional steadiness is rare. It's not taught in most places, and it's certainly not modeled by most men. But you were different. You became the man who could feel everything, but wasn't ruled by anything. And that distinction changed everything. When she threw her storm your way, when she pulled back to see if you'd chase or picked a fight to stir up drama, you didn't dance to that tune. You observed like a Stoic watches the weather, knowing it will pass. You weren't cold. You weren't distant. You were anchored. And that anchor allowed her to see just how much noise she had mistaken for connection in the past. There's a particular kind of silence that isn't emptiness. It's depth. The kind of silence that speaks louder than any grand gesture or apology. That's what you left behind. You didn't burn bridges. You didn't demand closure. You simply walked forward with dignity, carrying your peace with you. And now when she finds herself in a quiet moment, away from the distractions, away from the validation, she remembers you. Not the man who begged, not the one who tried to control, but the one who didn't flinch when tested, the one who made her feel safe, not by force, but by example. That's Stoic love. It doesn't grip, it guides. It doesn't need, it offers. And when it walks away, it doesn't slam the door. It leaves a door open in the heart, one that cacks every time the room goes silent. So be that man, the one who mastered himself, the one who didn't let emotions dictate his worth. The one hold not with noise but with presence. Because when she's with someone else and he starts yelling, blaming, or unraveling under pressure, she'll remember you. And that memory, it doesn't fade. It sharpens, especially when the room is quiet. And maybe that's the quiet truth no one ever conclusion told us. Your greatest impact won't be made when you're trying to be seen. It'll be felt when you're no longer in the room, when she's lying awake and the world is silent. It won't be the loud men she replays. It'll be the man whose stillness left echoes. The one who didn't react, didn't chase, didn't perform, just showed up with depth, led with presence, and walked away with peace. That's the man she remembers. That's the legacy you leave, not in noise, but in the silence that follows. If this message resonated with you, if something in you stirred while listening, let's hear it. Drop a comment below and share the moment where your silence spoke louder than words. Was there a time your calm changed the dynamic? We'd love to know. And if you found value in this video, help the message spread. Hit the like button to show your support. Subscribe for more content that sharpens your mind and strengthens your presence. And before you go, check out the recommended videos on screen. They're designed to take you even deeper into the journey of emotional discipline, self-mastery, and becoming the man who doesn't need to speak to be remembered. Stay grounded, stay present. We'll see you in the next one.